Hello there, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about work experience. So we're going to be going over what work experience actually is, the myths surrounding it. Let's get into it. Okay, so in order to kind of talk more about work experience, we're going to need to have a little look at what work experience actually is. So work experience is generally defined as any time that we spend in a workplace. And for veterinary science, we divide that into two different categories. So we firstly have clinical, and we also have practical or non-clinical as well. Now, clinical is slightly harder to get, but it's any time that we spend in a veterinary surgery or a veterinary practice itself. So any time you spend around vets, nurses, any time in consultations, operations, anything like that, we put that into the clinical category. And then anything else that you do as well, so any time in a pet shop, any time that we spend on farms or volunteering at animal sanctuaries or anything like that, we put that into our practical work experience category. One of the things that can be really confusing about work experience is actually the varying amounts that we need. So different universities tend to have hugely different amounts that they require, that you need to meet in order to kind of gain entry. So they range from down to about 30 days total, all the way up to a few years ago, not quite so much anymore, but we had one that was 15 weeks total. So hugely varying amounts of work experience that are required. And then within that we have different amounts of clinical work experience and different amounts of practical work experience that you need to get as well. So it can be really confusing to try and work out the amount of work experience we actually need. So the first tip that I'm going to say is when you kind of see the actual work experience guidelines, they tend to be given in weeks. So a week, generally regarded as 5 days, not 7 because it's the working week. And one of the things to remember is that those kind of 5 days do not need to be taken at once. So obviously if we're taking kind of time off school, off work to do these work experience in big blocks, then we are going to do it all at once, but that's not really important. So we can kind of do a few hours at weekends or after school, and over time we're going to build that up into an 8-hour time block, which will be a day, 7 hours sometimes as well, and then we're going to build that up into a week. So we can also do it that way if we don't have as much time. One of the other big kind of things around work experience is that it's all about how much you get. So you kind of get people saying, oh, I got kind of 16 weeks work experience before I got in, I got 6 years of work experience before I got in. That's not important either. So up until a few years ago, that actually was kind of the main thing. That's why we got these ridiculous kind of 15 weeks work experience before you can apply. And we have these huge numbers, and what happens then is you get people kind of pushing for work experience, and then they don't really take any of it in, they don't really reflect on it. So actually now, especially kind of given the pandemic has actually accelerated this trend, one of the main things for us about work experience is actually how much you reflect on it afterwards. So for example, if we have a student who's kind of wanted to be a vet since they were 4 or 5, and they've been getting work experience ever since then, so maybe they actually managed to total up 6 months of work experience, which is a huge amount. Maybe then we also have another student who only managed to get maybe a couple of weeks of work experience. So they did meet the kind of the guidelines, but they didn't actually get as much as student A. So in that circumstance, what the universities would actually look at is how much they've actually learned from the work experience. So if they both went to the same place and they both saw the same operation, but one went back and had a look at how the vet reacted to the operation, how they responded to their clients, and reflected on what qualities they might need for that, then the university is going to judge that work experience as being more valuable for the student who reflects on it, because they've taken more of it in rather than just looking at it as a number. So that's kind of another thing. Whenever you go to work experience, always when you get back, write down everything you've seen and try and reflect on it as well. Okay, so that's it. We are done. Hopefully that was useful. We've kind of covered all of the stuff surrounding work experience. If there is anything else you want me to cover around work experience or any other kind of category around veterinary science in particular, then I'd be happy to do that. Please leave a comment down below. Also, please like and subscribe to the channel, that would be really useful. And if you do have any comments surrounding how I'm making the videos or how I'm filming the videos, I'm really new to this, so that would also be really, really useful as well. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon.